read the script. So it was one of those luncheons, and my dear mother, who lived in Westchester, Pennsylvania, she said, honey, I read somewhere, but she didn't read those movie magazines, but she said, I did read somewhere that he likes women in beige and white gloves. Sounds crazy, but I had a package, a little box of white gloves that I wore when I was in New York City in the 50s. The women wore white gloves. And I lived in beige, so I was all set. And I had lunch and I got the part.
Simple as that. Well, it was actually quite a stretch for you because nobody had really seen you in a part like that before.
No, and I know to this moment, I don't know where he saw me as the sexy spy lady, because I had done on the waterfront. I wasn't exactly sexy there. Well, in her own way, she was. But I'd done That Certain Feeling with Bob Hope, and I wore beautiful clothes, Edith had clothes. So maybe he thought, maybe he had some kind of image. I never asked him.
But it was great chemical casting in there. A great idea, I think.
Yeah, well, who doesn't want to play a sexy spy lady?
And Marty, how did you get involved with it? Well, I was in a play on Broadway called Middle of the Night, which is Patty Jenkins' first play on Broadway. And I toured with it, and Woody Robinson was a star, and Jenna Roberts played my wife in that play. And we played the Biltmore Theater, which is now gone. Most of the theaters are either insurance companies and parking lots these days. I played it. Hitchcock came opening night to see Edward G. Robinson. And next thing I know, I got a call saying that Mr. Hitchcock would like to meet me at MGM. And I went there, and he greeted me as a long-lost friend and showed me, I went through the offices, and he showed me the entire movie on storyboards. And then said, "You're now Leonard."
And you didn't have to wear white gloves, right?
I didn't wear white gloves nor black gloves.
Were you beige?
But he did take me to Cary Grant's tailor, unbeknownst to Cary, and had a fellow called Cotino on Wilshire Boulevard make suits according to Cary's specifications. And I didn't meet Cary Grant until I went to Chicago at the South Street station. Hitchcock called me and said, Martin, I'd like to see you in the suit in the location. So I went there, and I was standing with a bunch of extras, minding, watching him shoot before I made my entrance into Inner Sanctum. And a fellow came up to me and said, "Excuse me, my name's Ray Olson. Where'd you get that suit?" I swear to God. I said, "Well, why?" He said, "Well, there are only two tailors in the world make a suit like that. Mr. Grant would like to know. One's in Hong Kong and one's in Beverly Hills." And I said, "I think you better have this conversation with Mr. Hitchcock."
It's interesting, Martin. So he saw you in the middle of the night, and I did middle of the night on television live.
With E.G. Marshall.
With E.G. Marshall. I love that story.
I saw that.
And it was about a young woman who falls in love with an older man. And in the days of live television, there weren't many stations and channels, and so people really watched the live.
I think Stephen Hill played the role that I played.
Well, that's right. It's amazing. And
all roads lead to Hollywood.
So the two of you didn't know each other in New York?
Well, I knew Jeffrey. I know her husband because in live television, Jeff was one of the busiest directors in live television. I recently directed Mark Rydell and myself at Sunshine Boys, and he's a terrific director.
Yes, he is indeed.
But when I did Middle of the Night, it's about the older man, the younger girl. So I did a lot of walking. I lived in the village, and so I was walking that day after the show, and 4 young women came up to me and said, "I'm going with an older man. Do you think it'll work out?" I have no idea what you're talking about. But in live television, people got so involved because it was live.
Right.
There was just something magical about it.
Yeah. And it entered our homes, and we watched it.
Yeah. And it was live because terrible things happen on the set, and I've never been afraid of anything. Maybe, the freeways in LA. I don't know. But I've never been afraid. It was the bloodbath to do live television, but exciting. It was like doing stage.
Yes. Now, the Hitchcock experience, we hear so much about him, so much is written about him, a lot of times by people who didn't know him and didn't work with him. What was your experience individually? We particularly hear about that he was very complicated with women sometimes.
He was complicated with, let's talk about that. He wasn't complicated with me. Well, I guess, why not, I wonder. But he, of course, a part Quaker, that's it, I think. I am Quaker. I love that. Any Quakers in the audience?
So did you have any problems?
I'm sorry.
Did you like the experience?
I love the experience because he cared so much about his leading ladies, as we all know, his wonderful actresses who played in his movies. But he was so concerned about everything, what they wore, their hair, and I love that because that helped me visualize, at least externally, this lady. And Jeff Martin and I go to the actor studio, so you have to fill in from within yourself. But it really helped, and he only gave me 3 things as a director. He said, lower your voice, don't use your hands, and look directly into Cary Grant's eyes at all times.
Was that tough?
A rock star, not bad.
Was that tough looking into Cary
No,
Grant's
that
eyes?
wasn't tough at all. Not using my hands was the hardest thing, as you noticed. But I'm not going to use them anymore today.
Comedy.
Check me if I do. Yeah.
Well, you know, I was freshman in theater where you work a lot with the directors, and he rarely told me anything. So, in fact, during the auction gallery scene, he had said something to you, something to Cary, and something to James, and passed me by. And I felt a little left out, so I said, is there anything you want to tell me, Mr. Hitchcock? And he said, Martin, I'll only tell you if I don't like what you're doing. Not to say that he didn't like what she was doing.
You're going to tell that story again, ever?
It cost you $10.
So it was a good experience for you as an
It
actor.
was a terrific experience. I mean, you know, as he just said, we came from different worlds. I mean, we came from Lee Strasberg, the actor studio, and you know, he was filmed with Marlon Brando on the waterfront. I mean, it was, you know, when you think about her in that role, and think about her in this role in this film, I mean, it's 180 degrees, and I mean, you really should pay attention to the kind of range that this young lady has. He saw me in the play, in which I played a very macho musician. He was all over the stage, actually. I mean, he was egocentric and kind of foolish. You know, as he was said, Jenna Rollins' character falls in love with this older man, and my character comes back from Las Vegas where he's playing a musical gig, and figures he just puts his hands on his wife, and she'll, you know, forget about the older man, and of course she rejects him. And so I play this jerk, and the character in Northwest, which I chose to play as a gay character, wasn't quite written that way, because he wanted to get rid of Eva's character with such a vengeance. I thought, as opposed to just being a henchman, it would be an interesting choice. And he let me do that. It was very subtle, but I wanted to get rid of Eva's character with such a vengeance. I thought, as opposed to just being a henchman, it would be an interesting choice. And he let me do that. It was very subtle, but
If that was you, that element in there.
well, Ernie Lehman actually added a line which wasn't in the original script when he saw the dailies, which is, there's a scene where I reveal that the gun didn't have real bullets in it, that I grabbed it, and so you're in for a treat, because most of the people that I've talked to in the last bunch of years have seen this movie on little screen deserves to be seen on it.
Yeah, there's kind of
getting back to the, Ernie added a line which was kind of daring in the 1950s, which was, "Call it my woman's intuition, if you will." My character says that to James Mason, and which I thought was a pretty audacious line in his day.
That was interesting. You hearing that line, and to really justify that gave you that whole wonderful character.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, one thing about Hitchcock, he always did hire the best actors. So he obviously expected them to bring something, or most of it, to the table. But did he ever talk to you about interpretation or
No,
the character?
it's interesting. He never, I don't know about Martin, but he never, the opposite of the Kazam, who directed On the Water.
Right.
But he didn't do it that way. That was really up to you. But you had a sense on the set that he saw something in you for that character, even if you didn't see it yourself. When I first read the script, I just had a baby, and I said, I don't know, I don't come in until page 70. Isn't that awful? And my husband, don't tell those other people out. But my husband, who's a director, he said, "Honey, I think you just ought to read this again." And I actually thought in the back of my mind, how am I going to climb Mount Rushmore at this point in my life? But they say exercise after you have a baby, and that's what I did. I climbed it. But you'll notice in the movie, when I go like this, I run my elbow. I fall. I'm supposed to slide on Mount Rushmore, and the young man who was supposed to catch me off screen was looking the other way, and I just kept sliding and sliding. And I thought, as the character, my elbow hurts, and I'm going to rub it. And it's in this story, in the screen, on the screen.
Yeah, you both work with so many wonderful directors, and as a matter of fact, with Woody Allen and Crimes and Misdemeanors.
Woody doesn't do it at all.
How do you rank Hitchcock among all those wonderful directors you worked with? Was he one of the best? Was he most unusual?
Well, he was very clear as to what the visual thing was. I do agree. I think he just leaves you alone. If he casts you, he trusts you. And I was a new kid on the block, so I was really an unknown. He saw me in playing a character, as I say, completely different. You know what Carrie's going to do, pretty much. You know what James is going to do. He really know what I was going to do. And he welcomed it and was very generous.
Did you know what I was going to do?
I had no idea.
I surprised you.
It's still one of the sexiest performances. That scene in the dining car is probably one of the best.
And I'm so against smoking. I've never smoked. And if any of you are still smoking, really think about it, giving it up. I'm not going to lecture, but really think about it. Seriously. But so I look at that scene, and well, I don't smoke through the whole movie, though. That's good. Just for that. Now, you'll notice in that scene, how does that work when I say, he's being very suggestive, and I say, I never make love on an empty stomach. Now, that's what I said, but I had to make love to, I never make love on an empty stomach. I never discuss love on an empty stomach. Instead of, I never make love. So you'll notice the dubbing. It's not easy to just...
No, because you see your mouth saying, make love, and they say, discuss love.
Now don't let that distract you.
We do have to talk about, for those that haven't seen it, or aren't aware of this, that other wonderful moment with the gun. Because that doesn't give any plot away.
Oh,
it doesn't give the plot away.
You mean the little boy?
Yes.
Oh.
But because that's so fascinating to watch for.
But again, don't let it distract you.
No, because we won't get the plot away. It's just, I'll set it up and then you take it from there.
Whatever Robert Osborne said, I'll do.
There's a scene in which there's some action going on and somebody gets shot. Well, watch in a scene that takes place in the cafeteria of Mount Rushmore. When there's some action there, look at a table way in the back, and there are people sitting there eating. They're kind of picnic table kind of thing. And all of a sudden you'll see a little boy go. They obviously had rehearsed the scene, and he knew there was a gunshot coming. He was prepared for when they came and they shot the scene. But it happened so far up in the corner, and you know, of course, in those days, 1959, when a film came out, it was usually seen once, and then nobody saw a film again. So I'm sure if they did notice it, they thought, well, it's not worth going back and having to shoot again.
Yes, it's very curious because it was a little boy, and I was having trouble with a gun. It's very difficult to shoot a gun if you've never shot a gun. Even if it's make-believe, it's a I gun. Oh, I'm Quaker, maybe that's it. You never know. And I discovered that right this minute. But I never noticed what some fan noticed, which was the little boy going like that. And they pointed it out, so then I watched the movie and I saw that. And as we sit here, I don't know whether it was Hitch saying, aha, here we are talking about it, or as Robert thinks and my husband thinks that, you know, he saw it and why go back and just do it over again. It's such a dramatic scene, maybe no one will notice. Well, every one of you is going to notice.
As a matter of fact, I'm doing a Q&A on Sunday, and if you will notice in one little spot during Cleopatra, there is a bit of a jet stream. Ancient Rome.
And that had a lot of extras, right? They couldn't
15,000 extras.
You can't put them all back on reshoot. Yes, exactly. Well, it's so wonderful having you here and sharing these memories with us. And thanks for being here. As always.